was lonesome for the family, and I packed that little suitcase and sat on it and was ready to go, and I was waiting on the bus. At time for me to go get on the bus, and a senior girl came back to the house for some reason, and she saw me in there, and she said, "What in the world are you doing?" I said, "I'm leaving school." And she came in, sat down on the bed, and she said, "Marie, you don't want to do that because you told me your brother left." And she said, "Now you leave." She said, "Do you have any other brothers and sisters?" And I said, "Yes." And she said, "Well, they're not going to get to go to school then because you just quit too." So I just got my suitcase open and unpacked my things.
Donna and Friends is brought to you in part by Nafy's Deli and Grill, located at 600 East Main, and by A&G Meats, located at 823 North Little Avenue in Cushing.
Hey, this is Donna Judd with Red Dirt Media Group. We'd like to invite you to the 2015 Candidates Forum that'll be held at the First Free Will Baptist Church. This is your chance to get to know the candidates before the April 7th vote. The event will be on March 30th at 6:30 p.m. at the First Free Will Baptist Church, so don't miss it. Be informed because your vote counts.
The 2015 Candidates Forum brought to you in part by JLT Corporation.
At Davis Dental Studio, our patients are our friends. Unlike the big commercial facilities, Davis Dental Studios wants you to know you're not just a number. We strive to bring personal and quality service to each patient. Dr. Rebecca Davis has over 18 years of experience as a caring and compassionate dentist. She and her highly trained staff will make sure your visit is a positive one. So remember, when you and your family need dental care, Davis Dental Studio. You're not just a patient, you're a friend.
Cushing is on the cusp of a new day, of new challenges. I truly believe we need to change our leadership style. We need to be more in front of people, open and transparent, and more progressive in what we do as it relates to city business. We are elected as city officials by the taxpayers. We ought to be open to listen. I know with strong leadership and participation what a city government can do for a community to help it grow and prosper.
Bring common sense back to the city council. I would like to think that I have good old-fashioned horse sense. If they watched what we did the 6 years I was on the board, I was a voice for the center of the road and conservative use of the city's money. There's still a lot of projects that need to be done. I'd like to be involved in getting some of those things done. I'd like to bring common sense to the operation of the city of Cushing.
Paid for by Jim Hogrup.
Hi everybody, Joe Kennedy here with MTS and Pro Events. You know, a lot of people ask me what we do, and I'm always happy to tell them. We are first and foremost a production company, providing professional audio, video, lighting, and staging to clientele around the state and beyond. From concerts the size of orange peel at Oklahoma State University to simple microphone rentals, we can provide all of your AV needs. If you need an LCD projector, wireless microphone, LED lighting, we have it. We're proudly located in downtown Cushing in the AL Treese building at Broadway and Cleveland. Pro Events also provides and installs sound, video, and lighting systems to schools, churches, and businesses all over Oklahoma as well. If it's time for your system to get an upgrade, call us. We'll come out and assess your system for free and give you solid, practical answers that can meet any budget. We are direct to the manufacturer on all major lines of AV equipment. So if you have an event, large or small, or need an AV system makeover, call us today or visit our website at mts-proevents.com.
I would hope that I've done a good enough job in the 9 years that they would vote for me, number one. I was the first commissioner ever from the city of Cushing appointed to the Mayor's Council of Oklahoma. You know, I've been able to travel and go and see and do with all these other mayors, and I was able to go and visit a lot of different cities to see what they've done. It was really going to, help the city of Cushing to do things more economically. I'd like to have another 3 years. My heart is in Cushing.
Paid for by Everett Rossiter.
Be sure you know what's below and call 811 before you dig.
Lee Iacocca once famously said, "Lead, follow, or get out of the way." For years, the citizens of Cushing have settled for leadership that was content to follow the status quo. On April 7th, you can deliver a clear message that settling is no longer good enough. Together, we can return our city to a place that people want to be, for a day, a weekend, or to raise their family like me and my parents before me. On April 7th, vote for our city's future. Paid for by Trace Row.
Welcome back to Don and Friends. Let's get back to our visit with 103-year-old Marie Rainwater.
So then I just stayed with school, and I finished a year down there. And in those days, after you had a year of college, you could teach. And I didn't get a job that year, so I went more or less back and forth to OSU, and till I got a job at Ripley teaching, where I'd graduated. And I was teaching in second grade, and I stayed there 2 years and taught those little fellows. And listen, they'd come to school with pasteboard in the bottom of their shoes to keep their feet off of the ground. And they had no lunch. Their family wanted them to have an education. And so I'd pack up a lot of fruit and stuff. If Mom fried chicken and some of it was left, she'd put that in. And I fed those little fellows. And one day I told them we'd have a picnic. I said, we'll go out to the ballpark. And I knew 3 women that had enough that they could send a cake or something to add to my picnic. Well, when we got ready to go, it was raining. So I said, children, let's just come up here and I'll clear off my desk and we'll have a picnic here in the room. So, and I said, whatever you brought from home, you can put up here. And I began to put out my stuff that I had brought. And I looked back, and there were 3 of my little kids sitting with a cake in front of one, and the other had a dish of fried chicken, and the other, and I forget what she had. And I said, aren't you children who want to come up and share that? Your mother sent that to be shared for the picnic. And this little old boy stretched up and he said, no, we're going to sit back here and have a picnic back here. And I thought, oh, that isn't the right thing to do. And no, sir, they're going to sit back there and eat all that food. So I thought, I've got to teach those 3 a lesson. Now, what can I do? And then I thought the kids all love these popsicles. So when we got almost through our meal, I gave a little boy money, and I said, run down to the drugstore, and I counted how many was at my picnic. And I said, get everybody a popsicle. So when he came back, I started beefing these out to the children, and those 3 ran up and got in the line to have their popsicle, but I ran out just as I got to them. And the little boy said, where's our popsicle? I said, you didn't go on the picnic. This is just for the children that went on the picnic. And he just cried and went on. I said, you just will hush. I said, you sat back there with all that good food. And I said, you should have learned to share it with people. And I do think that was a good lesson to teach them. I think the main thing that's wrong with our country today is that we don't have good parents. Now, when I was growing up, my parents were concerned about me getting an education. They always saw to it that I had clothes to wear. They looked out they wanted me educated. And my elder grandmother on my mother's side used to say, if the Lord be with you, who can be against you? Well, I learned that, and I say that every day or two. If the Lord be with me, who could be against me? It's 1951, and I was hired as a financial secretary, and I taught 4 classes of business. And then finally I told them the financial business, I take care of all the money for the football games and all that. I said, I want to go back to the classroom. So they let me go back, and then I went over to OSU at night and on Saturdays and every summer, and finally got my master's in guidance and counseling. And that's what I really enjoyed. And to this day, all these kids, I was here 9 years as a counselor, and they'd come in and sit down and tell me anything in the world that was bothering them. And that way I could, and a lot of times, I feel like that I had an inspiration for God. Like one boy, his father and he was ready to go on a trip hunting at Christmas time, and he died of a heart attack. And that boy then began to run around and drink, and he was mad at the world. And they'd send him down to me, and send him down to me, and I'd try to talk to him, and his mother would call me, oh, do help him. Well, finally one day I was sitting there talking to that boy, and it just went through my mind. I said, don't you think your mother has suffered a loss too? I said, I know what's wrong with you. He said, well, if you do it's more than anybody else does. And I said, well, I know it's because you lost your father and you were planning on going on this trip of hunting. And so I said, you're bitter about it. I said, don't you think your mother suffered a loss? And I say, why make it a hardship for her to look after you? Well, that boy sat there and thought for a while, and he said, well, Ms. Rainwater, I think I had enough of counseling. I said, all right. And he straightened up, and his mother later called me and said, well, I never saw such a change in that boy. Well, it was just, that happened time and time again. I would get an inspiration to say something to that person that would sort of make them wonder, well, what am I doing to myself? And I always told him, I said, don't get involved in drugs and liquor. And I said, go get an education. I said, when you graduate, how you spend your next 4 or 6 years is going to determine how you live 40 or 60. Well, they couldn't understand it. But now, when I meet up with these kids, they tell me how their life had changed by going back to college. On that computer, Rita has a computer, yes, a large one. And then my grandson gave me an iPad, an Apple iPad, and I just learned how to operate it with Lorita's help. Well, sometimes I wish we didn't have an iPad and we didn't have a computer, because right here, Lorita and I'll sit here for hours and never say a word to each other because we have the iPad and we have the computer going. Well, you need that communication with each other. Well, I thank God every day that I've been permitted to live, and especially for my mind. So many of my friends have become Alzheimer's patients, and they've just lost out on everything. And I think one of the things is they've lost hope. And the thing about it, so many of your older friends, you try to get them to go do something. I had them coming here to my house, and we played skip-bo every Thursday after